Somebody here. Torres 41, what it do? We outside. Cracking at the new spot, man. You know what I'm saying? Still ain't got stuff put away. Nah, you know what I'm saying? Just move at the new spot. It's man, look, I got a view, I'm saying, of downtown. Y'all can't see it. Well, yeah, you can. You can't see it as well as I can. Can you hear me now? Nah, so we testing out, you know what I'm saying, testing out the new spot, see how it works, seeing how it works out. It's been a busy week. So what you got up? It's Friday night. I know you got something cracking. Friday night, what's up? Uh Look at that, look at that. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank
That's a nice one.
you. Just got off work. Yeah, I know how that is. I got off a little bit early. I got off at what, 4:30. Came home, been working all ever since I got home. I've been working. I just sent my collar close. Y'all ain't told me. Y'all ain't said nothing. Got me looking. Hold on. I still look high. Nah, you know what I'm saying? Work was it was hot today. So, you know what I'm saying, I'm out in the sun, in El Cajon, working, you know what I'm saying, on heavy equipment, and it was hot. Got it done though, you know what I'm saying? We had a lot to do. It's work's picking up, so it's been busy. That's what I've been thinking about, one of the things I was thinking about, something came across my feed, and it messed me up. It messed me up when I saw it, because the dude said that if you worked as hard on your job, as if you work on your life as hard as you do on your job, then maybe you wouldn't need a job. That was a cold one, you know what I mean? Because it made me think, like, man, you know what I'm saying? I work 10 hours a day at my job. After that, it's come home, you know what I'm saying? Wash up and eat, you know what I'm saying? There go another 2 hours right there. And then, you know what I'm saying? What's left? Gotta sleep. You're supposed to get 8 hours, but, you know what I mean? I don't get no 8 hours. What if, what if you worked so hard at your life that it became your job? LOL. Well, that's the thing, if you made your life better, wouldn't that, you know what I'm saying, make things better for you, at least, for no, you know what I'm saying, no one else but you. Cause I'm thinking about me, you know what I'm saying, I be busting my ass, you know what I'm saying, and I don't know. I don't know, man, you know what I'm saying, I'm supposed to work for, you know what I'm saying, a bunch of years, and then when I'm broke up, old, and you know what I'm saying, barely able to move, you know what I'm saying, then I'm supposed to retire to enjoy my life. I don't know. It's just a rat race, man. You know what I'm saying? Truthfully, I want out. You know what I'm saying? But there's an Ice Cube song. I'm not sure which one it is. It's on the Man Up album. His new album, Man Up. But on there's a spot in one of his songs where he says, "You can't win, you can't get even, and you can't get out the game. So what you gonna do?" Cause that's where I'm at. I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna do. You know, it's a lot going on in the world, and you know what I'm saying. I have no control over none of it. you know, I really, you know what I'm saying. I be asking the question. You know what I'm saying. I was born onto this planet onto this, you know what I'm saying, this rock floating around the sun. I was born onto this, but I gotta pay for water. I gotta pay somebody to live. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? I'm ready to go take me a piece of dirt, you know what I mean? And this is mine, and I don't know. I was so far in the conspiracy theories and all this, and now I see stuff coming to true that I was reading about, you know what I'm saying, years ago when I was in prison. The New World Order is here. It's coming. Act like you know what I'm saying, because a lot of people don't know or don't care. I don't know, you know what I'm saying, hey, get some thumbs up, somebody. But that's the thing, man. The more I learn about how things are and what's really going on, what's going on behind the scenes, where's the money going, and then you start seeing other things that maybe you didn't realize before. I know a lot of people, just think everything is just gonna be okay. And I don't know, I guess I've always been a pessimist, I guess you call it. Because, I didn't look, I done been where it was bad. I done been to the bottom. I lived on the bottom. I've hit rock bottom. They say when you hit rock bottom, that's when you stand up. I stood up. I got tired. I hit rock bottom and I stood up. But it didn't matter because, you know what I'm saying, I had to stay in the California prison system, you know what I mean, until they finally opened the door. And that's the thing, you know what I'm saying, I'm good. I can't see giving California no more of my time. They done stole so much of it already on bogus. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. But nah, you know what I'm saying? I take full responsibility. You know what I'm saying? On everything I did. You know what I'm saying? I'd have made mistakes, you know what I'm saying? But that's what life is about. You make mistakes and then you learn from it. If you don't learn from it, then you're forced to repeat it. And that's the thing. I've made some mistakes more than once. But you know what I'm saying? Once you learn, you know what I'm saying, it's up to you to do better. You know what I mean? Can't nobody do better for you. If you want something, you got to go get it. If you want better, you got to do better. You know, I learned all these things the hard way. I learned the hardest way possible because I got to a point in life where I didn't want to go forward. I didn't want to, you know what I'm saying, I was ready to give up, to fold up, to but it just I don't know, you know what I'm saying, something kept me going. Something kept me going and I'm a can't stop, won't stop person. That's the way I've lived my life. Uh it's got me in trouble a bunch of times, but for the most part, I'm still here. So that's an important part because a lot of people didn't make it along the way. A lot of people ain't around no more, and that's a sad thing, because I done been to too many funerals. You know, childhood friends, people I grew up with, people that I started banging with, people friends that I've been knowing since like elementary school. And that's crazy because I'm an old man now. Don't tell nobody, but I'm proud of that. You know what I mean? I'm proud that I'm still here, because I figure somebody kept me here. Somebody got a plan for me. But then I wonder, you know what I'm saying, what's the plan? That, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to that, I put it in the higher power's hands. And then I asked him, you know what I'm saying, to show me what you want me to do and give me the strength to get it done. And ever since I've been doing that, life has, always worked out. And, when I let go and let God, it always works out better than the way I had planned. So, I'm gonna keep doing what's working for me. And this is, by far, the best life I've lived. This is the longest I've been out of a cage since I was 9 years old, and it's more than 9 years now. And like later this year, I plan on going up. I'm gonna celebrate on my 10th year of freedom, and I've been saving it for that. Because ain't nothing. This is just me. Trying to live the best life I can. Look. And I'm not expecting nobody to give Snow Rock nothing. I'm not expecting nobody to give Joey nothing. I'm a hustler. I've always been a hustler. I just converted my hustle to legit. That's me. I'm still hustling right here. This is a hustle. This is an income stream. But at the same time, I'm trying to get this book. And with moving and everything, everything's been put on hold and put aside, and I ain't had all that time. So now, I gotta, I gotta grind even harder. It works if you work it. So work it, cuz you worth it. Hey, that's some real spill right there. Appreciate you. Because like I said, this is the best I've ever been doing. This is the most I've ever had. Like, I go through struggles, and I'm not used to dealing with society. I'm used to being locked in a cage. And in the cage, things are, you got rules and regulations. You either follow the rules or you get, or you have, consequences and repercussions. And that's the thing. I was the consequences and repercussion guy. But that, I don't have to live like that no more. And that's the thing. I spent over 20 years in the California prison system. But I don't have to live like that no more. It's a choice. When they crack that gate, you want something different, you got to do something different. Man, that's all I did. I got out and got into a drug program. The spot on Streamview, if anybody knows San Diego, there's a drug program on Streamview in the middle of the street between 54th and College. And it's called the Heartland House. I went through the Heartland House in 2006. And I was just released from prison, from the hole, from Soledad. I did my last 8 months in the hole in Soledad. And they released me, and I didn't have no place to go. So I ended up finding that Heartland House and getting in there. They got me the job that I still have to this day. They got me a job through a temp agency, but the job that the people that I was working for hired me on full time. And I've been with that company for in January, I get a 15-year watch. And I'm looking forward to that because I've been with the company for a long time, and I've seen a lot, I've done a lot. I've traveled, I've been all up and down California working, one of the most memorable, not in a good way, but one of the most memorable times, I was working in Santa Barbara, and I got a call that my mom, my mom was having some problems, and the company just dropped what, don't worry about nothing, we're gonna fly you out there, take care of what you need to take care of. I was able to spend 5 days with my mother before she passed. So that was a blessing, and I'm not, I didn't fly. So, you know what I'm saying, it was a new experience, but, you know what I'm saying, the company took care of all the arrangements, and, you know what I'm saying, and all I had to do, you know what I'm saying, get there. You know, they drove me, dropped me off at the airport. I just had to get there. And I was able to, I was able to do that. That was important to me. And the company, you know what I'm saying, they went on beyond that. That wasn't it. But that's the thing, you know what I'm saying? The company that I work for, you know what I'm saying? I say it all the time. HP, HP saved Joey's life because I got out and I didn't have no place to go and nothing. And I got this job, and this job became a career for me because I'm in fiber optics. I'm a lineman for a fiber optics company, and we build fiber optic networks all over the planet right now. Yeah, the company I work for, you know what I'm saying, we're doing all the fiber optics for Hawaii, all the islands, every island, we're doing all the islands right now. You know what I'm saying? We got Guam, we do all the fiber for Guam. You know, right now, you know what I'm saying, we're all up and down California, but we've stretched, you know what I'm saying, across the whole United States. We got a yard in Florida now. We got yards in Tennessee. We got yards all over. The company is growing, so I'm glad to just be a part of, you know what I'm saying, what this company is doing. Yeah, man, what was the old temp agency back in the day? Vortex? No, I don't even remember. I only said I worked for that place for 2 days, and the drug program I was in, the Heartland House, they got me into that. Wired is getting their asses kicked in fiber optics. Yeah, but now I know fiber. Wired, when they first started, they were hiring a lot of people. You know what I mean? Because they hired people from the company I work for. They, you know what I'm saying, they was jumping on people and and paying them more than they were getting paid where I work. But you know what I'm saying, that didn't last long. And now I hear they're not doing too good and they're looking for a place. I stayed put, and you know what I'm saying, the company, they've been there for me. They've done a lot. The company, like I say, supposedly they are going bankrupt, but who knows? Damn, I didn't know that. All bad. But that's the thing, like I say, you know what I'm saying, the company I work for, I don't think they pay me enough. And that's the thing, you know what I'm saying, since I've been working for this company, they've taught me a lot. A lot. You know what I mean? But you know what I'm saying, they one of the things they taught me was self-worth. Oh, Joey is an asset. Joey's an asset. You know what I mean? I get a lot done, you know what I'm saying, and I just feel, you know what I'm saying, maybe I deserve a little bit more than what I'm getting. But, that's another conversation for another day. But yeah, you know what I'm saying, no complaints, man. This company, they done been there for me, you know what I'm saying, I can't even tell you how many times, this company's been there for me, because when I first got out of prison, I got the job. I was in a drug program, and now, I just did 12 years, 7 months straight, and all level 3 and level 4, maximum security, and as a white crip. So, you know what I'm saying, literally, I'm a little, you know what I'm saying, I'm a little messed up. But I'm trying to make it work. You know what I mean? So I'm the guy with the band-aids, you know what I'm saying, all beat up. Always got a band-aid on. Because I'm beat. I done been through the ringer a couple times. But I'm still here, and that's the thing, you know what I'm saying? I figure somebody kept me here for a reason. So, like I said, I'm gonna just keep pushing, and you know what I'm saying, trust and believe that, you know what I'm saying, whoever's been keeping me here got a plan, got a bigger plan for me. I know, you know what I'm saying, I know what my responsibility is, I'm a man. So a man is supposed to, you know what I'm saying, take care of his family. I feel, you know what I'm saying, I'm doing the best I can. to make sure my family, you know what I'm saying, has better than I had. And I think I've already achieved that. That's not hard. But you know what I mean, I want them to have the best. And it was a story I heard, when I was struggling and going through it with the higher power. It was like, okay, what is it? What are you there, or is anybody there? Or am I talking to myself? This is just a story. Because it's the greatest story ever told. But, trust and believe, right? And now when it came to me, there was a preacher in the institution I was locked up in. So I went to this. It was a men's fraternity in the prison, and they had it on Saturdays. So you go to the chapel and sit up in there for like an hour and a half. The system is the system, no matter what. I got 18 years and counting in family law, whooped my ass and took my cash. Now it's my job. The Lord saw me through it. Hey, that's the thing, you know what I'm saying? Trust and believe. Let him have it, and it always works out better than, the way I planned. And I can only speak from my experience, but when I plan something out and it don't work, when you let go and let God, it always comes out better than the way you planned it. So I gotta go with what works. I banged my head against the wall many times. So now it's like, okay, maybe I'm gonna try and find a door. Is there a window? Can I go around it, over it, under it? I don't have to, bang my head against the wall until I get through. Well, I got the head for it, but yeah, nah. I'm trying to work smarter, not harder, and it's still a lot. I'm learning. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. But nah, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to find some help. Truthfully, if somebody's listening, you know what I'm saying, tap in, holla at your boy. I'm trying to find a assistant, you know what I'm saying, who could work with me to help me, to moderate and do some of the behind the scenes stuff while I'm on camera. Let me know. Tap in, holla at your boy. Man, I ain't hard to find. Nah, like I say, I'm a small time hustler trying to make something happen. Like I ain't with being broke. So, I gotta get it somehow. But yeah, you know what I'm saying? I appreciate everybody for tapping in. I got a whole bunch of people. I got 5 people on, you know what I'm saying? Get some thumbs up. Thank you though. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate you. We outside today. I don't know. Do the planes bother you? Because I got a plane flying over. It's coming. I can hear it. I can't see it. But let's think. Can you see downtown from here? I see it over my shoulder. Well, over my shoulder. Yeah, so it's downtown right there, man. I got me a little view from the backyard. Voice is clear, even with the planes. Thank you, man. I appreciate you, you know what I'm saying, for letting me know. OG, besides you in prison, besides you in prison or before you, what white boy comes to your mind that role and kept it real with the blacks? Oh, it was a white boy. White boy did way more than me. The white boy, there's a white boy on death row. He did more than me. He on death row. But yeah, that was Goldie Loke. I believe he's from Park Village, Compton. So it was hard, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying, I've done, I've done, more than anybody or I did what I had to do to survive. You know what I'm saying, I did what I had to do, and that's I really believe that because I was really trying to survive. I was fighting for my life. So anytime I had a fight, I was coming with everything I had. And that's the thing, I'm not a little guy, I'm you know what I'm saying, I'm a big guy, you know what I'm saying, at my prime I was, 245, 6'3", and you know what I'm saying, yeah. Yeah. I was knocking shit down though. I was knocking shit down. I grew up in the hood. The homies gave me the blues. It was homies that didn't want me in the hood. It was homies that didn't want a white boy from the hood, and you know what I'm saying, they made it clear. But you know what I'm saying, I remember, going in, mouth busted. I think I had a bloody nose or a busted lip or something. I was fighting with some of, you know what I'm saying, some of the other kids in the neighborhood. And I come home, lip split, you know what I'm saying, come in the house, and my mom, you know what I'm saying, what happened? So she, you know what I'm saying, patches me up, put some ice on it, and give me a rag with some ice in it, put this on it. So then she's like, you know what I'm saying, I'm like, Mom, can we move, please? And she said, boy, we ain't got no money to move. Get your ass back outside and play. I came back. What you doing back? I ain't got nowhere else to go. Color like the movies. Colors like the movie. Yeah, that's the thing, you know what I'm saying? People don't even realize, man, like the song Colors was one of the songs, I Am a Nightmare Walking. These are things that, you know what I'm saying, I used to play over and over. I was the nightmare walking. I was, you know what I'm saying, I didn't care about nobody else. All I cared about was what I wanted. And if somebody was, you know what I'm saying, then they were, you know what I'm saying, they were gonna get it because, you know what I'm saying, I'm gonna need that. But that led me straight to a cage. Acting like that, you know what I'm saying, kept me. I would get out and go right back to a cage. And it was, you know what I mean, and I'm not saying, you know what I'm saying, everything I did was all that bad and I'm a bad guy and I'm, you know what I'm saying, I'm violent, you know what I'm saying, nah, nah. But the stuff I went to jail for, really, man, look, I robbed a drug dealer, and the drug dealer came to court and said I stole the drugs he was selling out of his house. Where did they do that at? I figure if I robbed a dope man, who he gonna tell? Deal with me in the streets. I'm not hard to find. You can't miss me. I glow. Man, it's crazy. That's crazy. Is another. Okay, so I was in county jail for armed robbery. This was in like 1991, and I got locked up for robbing a drug dealer. And the drug dealer coming to court and telling and everything, and I'm in jail, and there was another guy in there. We were playing cards, and he was the opponent. Me and my homeboy was gambling against him and another guy. So this dude, he was from Chicago. His name was Chi-Town. So, hey, Chi-Town, ooh. And he was like, man, you look familiar, man. You look familiar. And I'm like, you look familiar too. I just, you know what I'm saying, I didn't recognize him. I didn't know who he was. We're playing cards, you know what I'm saying? We're in this tank. It's like, you know what I'm saying, a week done went by. So now we sitting here playing cards and shooting the shit. And me and my homeboy is talking, and this the Chi-Town's like, man, you know what I'm saying, what you in here for? I'm like, oh man, armed robbery. And he was like, you the one that robbed me. So from then on, it was like, all right, you know what I'm saying, I can't be. But that's the thing, how you can't, how you not know? Yeah, that one was crazy. But no, you know what I'm saying, it's been a journey, and I'm 54 now. I didn't expect to get this. I didn't expect to make it this far, and I'm so glad I did because I just became a grandfather. I'm Grandpa Joey now. A lot of people don't know I got the grandbaby. I'm saying she ain't here today. She not feeling well. But you know what I mean, man, you know what I'm saying? That's the best part of my life when I come home from work and I see the daughter's car out front, or or I see the grandbaby. Oh yeah, I'm like a big old kid running, to go wash up so that I can hold the grandbaby. Man, best part of my life. Yeah, it's been a long week, man, and it's hot. I want to go fishing, but it's too damn hot. I'm talking about the guy in your story. How you gonna deal and tell Lolo that's crazy? Oh, you talking about the dude? I told him I was in for armed robbery. I didn't know, that he was one of the people I robbed when he was on the streets. But hey, like I said, if you had it, I was coming to get it. And where's the money at? The dope man always got a pocket full of money. They don't need it. So I figure, I'm gonna wait and I'm gonna come and take it. But then, like I said, the dope man came to court, got on the stand and told him, that we stole the drugs that he was selling out of his house. That was crazy. I just knew I was going to beat that case and go home. Ended up, getting sent to prison for the first time. Not a happy thing. Yeah, but nah, I think they let him slide just because they wanted to get me off the streets. Like I said, I was acting a fool, and I didn't care about nobody. I didn't care about myself. It was like I said, it was just about what I wanted at the time, and you know, I was a show off. So I put more people than I needed to in danger, and then I learned that from watching others. So that's when, things started changing, after, all that time in prison, that'll make you think, and I'm telling you, when I was, when it, my second term, they gave me 9 years, and this was 1994. So my release day was like a Buck Rogers day to me. You telling me I get out in 9 years, and then I didn't get out for 12 years. I did 12 years and 7 months. I got sentenced to nine. I went to prison with 9 years with 80%, and ended up doing 12 years and 7 months. So that's how prison was for me. But that's the thing, I look at it. I wasn't in prison living. I was in prison surviving. Like I said, I've been in more fights than I can remember. I've been stabbed 13 times. I've been shot with block guns. I've been beat with the billy clubs. The worst beating I ever got was from the correctional. I just did a video on it. I just did a video on it. Go check it out. It's, man, look. The worst beating I ever got was from the Goon Squad in Corcoran Shoe. Yeah, that'll teach you. Yeah, see, when it comes to the DA, from what I've learned, the system is twisted, homie, because the public defenders the people that are supposed to be defending me, they want to be in the DA's office. They're hoping to get picked up by the DA. They're hoping to become a DA so that they can, you know what I'm saying, have the cushy job. Man, this whole system is set up. They tell, I don't know. It's. I don't want to go into that one. That one gonna have me here all night, and I don't want to go into that one. Nah, you know what I'm saying. I be trying to focus on, you know what I'm saying, what I'm gonna do now because I'm I need help. I'm struggling, you know what I mean, because there's a lot of situations that I'm not used to dealing with. So I got the wifey, and she's, you know what I'm saying, she's a beast. She's been there, you know what I'm saying, helping me move forward. She got me to where I am now, you know. And life is good. Life is good. We still got, you know what I'm saying, we still got stuff going on. There go another plane. Ooh, almost got lost there. Yeah, man, focus on that. Fishing. Quit fishing the lakes and hit the bay. Yeah, that's the thing, you know what I'm saying? I hit the bay. I prefer the lakes, man. Fresh water. I'm a bait and wait guy. Man, look, I'm cool, you know what I'm saying? I got a couple lakes out here that got some good bass and some fat catfish. You just gotta know when to go. It's well, my favorite spot, you know what I'm saying, is Loveland. If anybody knows, you know what I'm saying, go to Loveland. Sup, y'all? Rod's here. Sup, everybody? Nah, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna go fishing. I want to go fishing, like I said, but it's too hot, and I don't want to sit on the bay and, you know what I'm saying? I gotta find me some shade. It'd be too hot. But the biggest thing is the crowd. I don't like a big crowd. I went to that lake with our homie. Didn't catch nothing. Oh yeah, you couldn't catch a cold in the winter. Did you have a hook on the line, or did you just tie the worm on the string? Talking about you was trying to catch something. What was you using for bait? That's the thing, man. Certain fish, like, man, look, you got certain places that don't allow, like the shiners. Shiners are the best bait that I know of. Wherever you go with shiners, you gonna catch something. Worms. Okay, so you had, yeah, you wasn't doing it right, because, you know what I'm saying. I can go anywhere with some night crawlers, and I'll take some little pieces of the night crawler and put it on a little hook and catch little fish. And then I take that little fish and I put that on a bigger hook and put that out there, and that's how you catch the big fish. Because what is the best bait to use when fishing? It's what that fish eats naturally. So, you know what I'm saying, I don't know. I don't know if worms, you know what I'm saying, be just swimming around in the lakes. That's a new one to me. I don't know, but the fish seem to like it. So, you know what I'm saying, I'm gonna stick with it. And my favorite setup is a drop shot. So anytime, you know what I'm saying, when I go fishing, you know what I'm saying, I try and hit all areas. So I had a wife with me. So I have two poles and she has one. So I put the drop shot in and I get the bait on the bottom. Then the wife gets a bobber with bait on the top. And then I put a shiner on the hook and just let him run and swim around and find the fish to eat him. Yeah, Loveland is beautiful, man. Look, I was there one time a long time ago, and I saw a red-tailed hawk come down, dive into the water, and then fly out with a big bass in its talons and fly off. And it was like crazy because the guy that I worked with was there and he didn't see the bird go into the water, but he heard it and he looked and he seen it come out with the fish. Me and this guy worked together. We was at work and he had stopped at a bait and tackle shop to get some stuff. There was a picture in the bait and tackle shop, and I'll never forget it. It was an eagle. It was a bald eagle, and it had a big bass, a largemouth bass in its talons, and it was flying like it just snatched his fish up. Otay Lakes is a good one, man. I done caught a lot of bass down there at Otay. That's a good spot. And then, like I say, I'm a bait and wait. I'm a bank guy. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna just sit on the bank, kick back, and relax. And that's the best part of fishing for me is I'm gonna relax and kick back. Now I have to check the pole and bait the hook and then you just kick on back. And then, what I'm saying, whoever you with, you get to spend some time, you get to talk, or you just get to relax and focus on, what I'm saying, you get to decompress, let everything go. You in nature, you around the water. Oh man, what I'm saying, I'm best day for me. Nah, I'm gonna get me some fishing in soon. I don't know when, but what I'm saying, it's coming. I just gotta wait until the time is right. Priorities. I gotta take care of what I gotta take care of. And what I'm saying, I ain't got a problem with that because I'm not doing bad. I'm not doing bad. I've been doing bad. This ain't doing bad. So what's up? Hey, I got 6 people up in here. I only got 3 likes. Let me get a couple more. Everybody put that thumb up. You ever hit up Poway Lakes? Also a nice spot. No, I've drove past it. I didn't even know where it was. I drove past it and I seen it. So I ain't never been there, but it's on my hit list. So I'm gonna get up there, what I'm saying, whenever I can. But one of my favorites is San Vicente. That's one of my favorite spots. I got some others. Otay. I want to escape. There's so many other, what I'm saying, places. Me and the wife last year, I think it was the year before, we made it up to the Kern River. And what I'm saying, man, I was catching the first cast. I had a bobber with some salmon eggs, and then a fish hit the bobber and popped it up into the air, and I was just like mesmerized because I can see the fish in the water, because I had these polarized glasses and the water is so clear, it's all snow melt, so it was beautiful out there, but what I'm saying, and them trout, what I'm saying, they went right on fire, real nice too. Nah, me and the wife, what I'm saying, that was another, what I'm saying, adventure. But I want to get up there and get into Yosemite Valley somewhere, what I'm saying, up in there. I don't know where, I don't know when, but what I'm saying, the first time I went was that was the only time so far. So me and my wife, we went up there and we had a blast. I caught a big brown trout. That thing, what I'm saying, that thing was nice. But after that, I didn't want to keep, what I'm saying, because I had some gear that was illegal. Don't tell nobody. Shh. But this is just for entertainment purposes only. Nah, there's a lot of regulations with the fish up there, but that's because they stock and do all that. Poway Reservoir is so clear, huge catfish just can't catch them. Oh yeah, I can show you how to catch them. I got a couple tricks. Man, that bluegill, good bait. On a drop shot, catfish will gobble it up. It's a harpoon. No, see, wherever you can go and get a line in the water, it's a good day. You know, last time I went fishing, I think it was on here. I went down to Mission Bay, and I was fishing right off the jetty on South Mission for like, you know what I'm saying, 4 or 5 hours. Didn't catch not a nibble, nothing. I don't know what was going on, but there was a guy that got there. He told me he got there early in the morning, and he was there for like 4 hours before I even got there. And he came by, and I asked him, if he caught anything. He was like, nope, nothing, not even a. I'm like, man, and I wasn't the only person out there fishing, but I wasn't the only person out there that got skunked, though. Yeah, a lot of people, because I was asking the people as they was walking by, and nobody caught nothing. All right, everybody, I done got my quota in for the night. I smell some food cooking, and I bet you my wife got me some grub. So, hey, Friday nights at 9 o'clock, make it a date. I'm going to be here next week. Tap in with your boy. Also, check out one of my other videos. It helps my channel. If nothing else, share the video, share it to me. It helps the algorithm to recognize my channel. I appreciate all y'all for tapping in and listening to me run my mouth. Y'all stay safe and have a good night.